Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into a recent vigil in Westminster and really what it tells us about the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We've got reports, articles, quite a bit of material.
Yes, it's a heavy topic, but incredibly important to talk about.
Absolutely. And we're joined by Dr. Rami Curry, a humanitarian doctor who has spent significant time working in Gaza. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Happy to share what I can from the sources and, well, my experience.
Great. Welcome to the Westferry Times, everyone. Let's start with the vigil itself. Held on May 29th, 2025, right outside the Palace of Westminster. What was the specific focus?
It was organized by the charity MAP Medical Aid for Palestinians, and the focus was solely and tragically on remembering the thousands, literally thousands of children killed in Gaza over the last 19 months.
19 months. It's hard to fathom. And there was a very specific symbolic action participants took.
Yes, extremely poignant. People wrote the names of children who have died onto their own hands.
And the significance of that, it connects directly back to Gaza, doesn't it?
It does. It's apparently something children in Gaza themselves have been doing, writing their names on their bodies, on their hands or arms, out of fear.
Fear that they might be killed and need to be identified.
Exactly, so they can be identified if the worst happens. It's a devastatingly direct link. The vigil wasn't just symbolic remembrance, it echoed a grim reality.
It really highlights the constant threat they're living under. The sources also mention readings during the vigil. One was from a young girl.
Yes, a 9-year-old named Zina Abu Libda. She's displaced from El Ramal in Gaza. Her message was read out.
What did she say? The quote was quite powerful.
It was. She said, "I used to like watching videos on the phone, but now I am scared as all of it is footage of children's bodies shattered into pieces. Our life is a nightmare."
A 9-year-old. Our life is a nightmare.
It's
It cuts right through, doesn't it?
absolutely. It speaks volumes about the trauma, the loss of childhood, the sheer psychological weight these children are carrying. It's not just about physical survival.
And that brings us to the wider humanitarian situation. The sources paint a pretty bleak picture.
Dire is the word used consistently. Over 54,000 people reported killed, and the majority, overwhelmingly, are women and children.
And beyond the casualties, what about basic infrastructure? Healthcare, for instance.
It's collapsing. A key piece of information was the forced evacuation of Al-Awda Hospital in northern Gaza. Reports identified it as the last hospital that was actually functioning in that area.
The last one, so if that's gone.
It signifies a systemic breakdown. Access to critical medical care is becoming, well, almost impossible in parts of Gaza.
And alongside that, getting aid in must be crucial. What did the reports say about aid distribution? Any challenges there?
Oh, definitely. Big challenges. The UN, for instance, reported recently that Israel denied its trucks permission to even pick up aid from the border crossing.
Denied permission. For how long?
For 3 consecutive days, according to that UN report. So the aid is there, but it couldn't be collected and distributed.
Which obviously just makes an already desperate situation even worse.
Exactly. It directly impedes the flow of essentials, food, medicine, everything people need to survive.
Okay, so with this incredibly grim picture on the ground, how is the international community responding? What are the sources telling us there?
Well, there's definitely growing international concern. You see reports mentioning mounting global outrage, particularly regarding certain policy decisions.
Like what specifically?
One example highlighted is Israel's recent authorization of 22 new settlements in the West Bank. The UN and the UK specifically criticized this.
Criticized on what grounds?
They labeled them illegal under international law. That's based on principles like the Fourth Geneva Convention, which generally prohibits an occupying power moving its population into occupied territory.
Right. Okay, so that's one aspect of the international reaction. But what about efforts to actually stop the fighting? Any movement on a ceasefire?
Yes, that's been a major focus. The U.S. put forward a new plan recently.
What did that involve?
It was described as involving a 60-day truce initially, and then phased exchanges of hostages held by Hamas for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel.
60 days. And how is that received? What did Hamas say, according to the sources?
They expressed dissatisfaction. The reports indicated their main issue, the real sticking point, was the lack of a clear commitment within that plan for a permanent ceasefire.
So a temporary pause wasn't enough. They wanted guarantees it wouldn't just restart.
That seems to be the core issue highlighted. They were looking for something more definitive about ending the conflict altogether, not just pausing it.
Understood. We've talked statistics, politics, but you have firsthand experience there. Could you maybe share a personal story, something that illustrates the human side of this crisis?
Sure. There are so many, but one that stays with me. I was treating a young boy, maybe 10. He'd been injured in an airstrike, and he lost both his parents in the same attack.
Oh, goodness.
And despite his own injuries, his own shock, the main thing he kept asking about over and over was his little sister. Was she okay? Was she safe?
His focus was entirely on her, even then.
Entirely. Before his own pain, before processing his loss, his instinct was to protect her. You see this incredible resilience, this deep care for family, even in the absolute worst circumstances. It's both heartbreaking and profoundly human.
That really brings it home, that resilience amidst such tragedy. So thinking about that resilience and the sheer scale of the need, what do the analyses suggest? What can the international community actually do?
Well, the recommendations tend to fall into two camps.
Yeah.
Immediate steps and longer-term solutions.
Okay, what are the immediate ones?
Consistently, you see calls for enforcing a genuine, verifiable ceasefire. That's paramount. Then, ensuring unimpeded humanitarian access, letting aid flow freely through all necessary channels. And importantly, accountability for violations of international law, which various reports are documenting.
Accountability and longer term.
That involves tackling the root causes of the conflicts, which are deep and complex, obviously, and fostering real dialogue, reconciliation efforts, trying to build a foundation for a lasting peace, not just another pause.
Thank you so much for walking us through all of this today, drawing on the sources and your own insights. It's been incredibly valuable.
Thank you. It's vital we keep talking about this, keep shedding light on what's happening.
The vigil we started with, it really serves as such a stark reminder, doesn't it, of the individual lives, the children caught up in this, and the urgent need for peace, for aid, for something to change.
Advocacy and awareness are crucial, especially for those whose voices often aren't heard.
And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We've covered a lot: the vigil's message, the grim realities on the ground, the international complexities, the human stories, all drawn from the material we reviewed. As you process this information, the children's fear, the collapsing systems, the political deadlock, maybe just consider the role that staying informed, staying compassionate plays when we're faced with these huge global challenges. Thank you for watching Westferry Times.